All right, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mining Experience, a live podcast that invites professionals from the mining industry to discuss new technologies, address challenges, and share work experiences. In this episode, we will discuss the application of drones in the mining industry. Across the mining industry, technology applications have been taking over all aspects of mining. Drones play an important role when it comes to surveying productivity and health and safety. Our guests will discuss these aspects and how to start implementing them in today's mines. We have the honor to host three guests today. First, Rami Mosa, CEO and founder of TriStar. Drone designer and full stack web developer, Rami has designed and developed advanced technology product prototypes, including several high performance drones, one of which is patent pending and constitutes the basis of TriStar's product. Previous work includes software development, technology advisory roles with MNCs, and public policy advising with municipal governments. Rami, welcome. And we have Andres Bayona, VP Business Development and co-founder of TriStar. He has worked as a business strategy and management consultant in North America, Latin America, and Asia. He has extensive experience in regulatory matters, allowing him to navigate the changing regulatory landscape for drones. Hello, Andres, and welcome. And we have Jonathan Aubertin, a graduate of mining engineering from McGill University and a PhD in geological engineering. Jonathan has been involved with Morton Salt as a co-op student, where he also worked part-time. He currently works as a general foreman over the fixed mine assets at Morton Salt Weeks Island Mine, where he runs the hoisting plants and the underground mill. He aspires to be a civil engineering professor at the Université du Québec de Montréal. Hello, everyone. Welcome again, and thanks for being here. I'm your host today, Mohamed Zaki, and I'm here with Martin. Hello, Martin. How's it going today?
Hello, everyone. Pretty excited to be here as a co-host for the second episode of the Mining Experience.
Excellent. So to start off, Rami, tell us a little bit about drones. So what are the applications of drones in the mining industry, and how does that improve data collection and productivity?
Yeah, hi. So we've seen several different ways that drones can be used inside of mines. Typically, a lot for security as well as surveying. So one of the things that we've seen as the first use of drones in mines is measuring stockpiles, where we can reduce something that would typically take hours to scan in, and we can get it done within 30 minutes using a drone.
Great. Yeah, it's good to know about that. So Martin, I think you had a comment about that. I remember you wanted to say something about it, right?
Yeah, right now when Rami mentioned about surveying stockpiles, wanted to ask what type of technology is involved in surveying either stockpiles or underground developments.
So our technology is majoritarily used for open air purposes. So we don't operate inside of underground mines. But for open air purposes, one of the most important things is to be able to carry high definition cameras so that you can get more accurate photogrammetry results, so more accurate surveying. What we've seen a lot is the use of smaller drones like DJIs as first generation programs, UAV programs on mines. And we've seen that mines have discovered new applications in terms of security as well for the large terrains that they have to cover in terms of tracking equipment and personnel on their field. So they've been looking more and more at drones that are more performant, that can fly for longer periods of time, that can cover larger territories. And we've seen this development move on this way. But at the base of it, we carry very similar cameras, high definition cameras with global shutters that allow us to take photogrammetry measures very quickly and efficiently.
I see.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And what would be the main features between or what would be the main features regarding the price for the drones?
Yeah, so once again, those like first generation programs that use mostly, say, consumer grade drones, where we're talking about prices of $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and most of that money is being spent on the sensors, so the cameras themselves. Today, we're looking more at mining drones that are in the $25,000 to $50,000 range, depending on if you're carrying, if it's a multi-rotor type drone or a fixed wing type drone, what kind of surveying you're doing, what kind of equipment you're carrying. If you're carrying more sophisticated equipment that's significantly heavier, you're going to need larger drones and larger budgets.
I think to add to what Rami was saying, from when we launched our company and we did some market research, we realized that a lot of companies are using, I guess, what I would call suboptimal solutions, right? They're going for drones, like Rami said, you can get at Best Buy, and they work well for what people were doing, but they were having to buy several batteries, for example, so that they could fly a long time and all that. But now we're moving into a space where there's a lot more specialized drones for what people needed. So if you think of our drone, for example, it's a long flight time drone. So you could use it to cover larger distances. You wouldn't need to have as many batteries. And then there's other specialized drones, either for underground mines or for other types of applications. So you do see that the market is evolving and people are going for much more specialized equipment.
Yeah, I see.
Yep.
It's actually, yeah.
Yep. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, to add to that, one of the things that we've done with our drones, that we specialize them to be able to carry heavier payloads. So we can carry payloads in a 2 to 3 kilo range. And that allows us to carry cameras that have resolutions of up to 100 megapixels, which also helps with inspections, where we can take photos of large equipment and really zoom in and inspect to see if there's any rust, any damage, cracks, if anything needs to be, if there's follow-on inspections required by humans. So we can do first passes with these types of equipment, something that's not possible with less expensive drones that are really designed to carry, integrated cameras in the 500 to 600 gram range.
Yeah, I see. It's actually, I would think that people have this misconception that, like, oh, drones, that's for fun and filming, but when it comes to actual data collection and all that, it's not equipped to do as such. So yeah, I mean, it all depends on the features too, right? It's not just its capabilities, but also like whether it can handle harsh winter conditions, and it depends a lot on that. I mean, yeah. So
yeah, well, I mean, right before we started the podcast, we're talking about protecting equipment in cold weather, snowing weather. In emergency operations, you need your drone to be available if that's what you're relying on, and you need it to be available no matter what the weather is. You can't wait for good weather once the emergency's passed. So it's something that consumer grade drones are just not designed to do, and that's why we're seeing industry move towards, like Andres said, specialized drones, drones that are made for industrial applications, that are ruggedized, that are capable of carrying better equipment, better sensors, and capable of flying longer ranges, so you don't have to come back to base all the time to change your batteries.
It's actually something we heard from mines here in northern Quebec that we spoke to. They said, when you hear about drones, they say, yeah, but they don't really work in -30 temperatures. And so, yeah, consumer grade drones do not, but there are specialized drones, and we're developing our own version of a cold weather drone that would be able to operate in those temperatures. So, you said it well, Mohammed, the consumer grade drone is not necessarily optimal, or even, it's not the ideal for a lot of operations in mining.
oh, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. So Jonathan, in your experience, I know that you've worked a little bit with drones before in underground mines. So what are some of the applications that you've encountered before for drones?
Yes, well, thank you. I mean, I find it very interesting to hear.
Your voice is a little bit muffled. I think it's just your mic there to yeah. Yeah, I think it's just, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Oh, it's a
Yeah.
lot better now. Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. Like I was saying, it was very interesting to hear the other guys talking about the different types of the consume, like the typical grade you see in the store next door versus the high grade quality. A lot of stuff. I think a lot of the operations in the mining industry are usually introduced with those via the pile measurements, usually survey type things, just measuring some volumes. And I've seen a lot of that technology used to measuring big blasts and just trying to measure the volume of certain piles. What I've seen a lot being used down here in Louisiana, and we were just talking about weather conditions that we had down south in Texas and Louisiana. We actually used quite a few drones to just do some reconnaissance of remote location where all our utilities are, because after a weather event, whether it's a hurricane or a storm, very often, especially down south in Louisiana and those bogs and wet locations, you have very hard access to those places. And drone have become almost part of the environment and landscape as far as you're concerned when you're talking about quick investigation, rapidly investigating places. So what I see within the industry that it's rapidly creeping, and you're seeing many different people just buying into this more and more and more. And really the key piece for this is, I guess, to make it accessible. If those technologies are not too hard to understand and grasp, you get more and more people to buy in and really interact with it. And that's really where I've seen it involved in the mine sites that I've worked at.
I see. And regarding the safety measures, Jonathan, which have been like the main risks that have been evaded because of implementing drones?
So the basic one would just be going in a remote location and getting stuck, and that's not as much of a safety hazard as just more of a convenience perspective. We started not too long ago using certain types of technology, and we've been involved with some companies using drone to going into abandoned areas underground. Underground areas have their own challenges with dusts and environmental controls, so we're having to investigate that. But we've used those just as an experimental trial perspective to go in an area that we know had maybe a ground control issue, or an area that we may not want to travel there without first seeing what's there. So basically a barricaded area, an old abandoned location that we just try to keep an eye on. Really, this is a great step or a milestone as far as how we can use drones underground and in mine sites, because it allows you to reach places that you may not want to put just a human being down there from very safety reasons. That reach and that access underground, to me, is a big plus that we just started scraping the surface of the possibilities.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
On the safety aspect, we've also heard from people using it following blast sites or in tailing dams to inspect, right? To have that visual inspection, basically in infrastructure that's vulnerable, where you don't necessarily want to send a human because of the risk. So that you can use drones for that, right? And we have heard of drones being used more and more for those operations.
Definitely. And if you're just talking about waste piles and things like that in northern Quebec and in Ontario as well, you have more and more, you have very large waste stockpiling locations, tailing dams and whatnot. And some of those tailing ponds, you can't readily just go in the middle of the pond and make sure everything is all right. But if you can fly over it, if you can go to certain locations, you can actually access some conditions very conveniently without being in any kind of trouble or hazardous situation.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is actually huge. Like, if you think about like the mining industry, like 10 years ago, who would have thought that like with all the risks associated, that you just send people down there to explore the abandoned shafts, like you were saying, Jonathan. And who would have thought that we would have something that's capable to do this now? Just like with any other technology, right? It's evolved so much, but I guess people would have to be more aware of this evolving technology. Yeah, so it's good to hear about that. Yeah.
And it's at one point about this that I find always fascinating about the mining industry is that, in a sense, the mining industry tends to be somehow conservative. But as you start introducing those technologies, you have a lot of people that have been in the industry for quite a while, and they realize that you could do a lot more with that given technology. it's usually that first step in the door it can be challenging. But once you have that drone or that LiDAR or that seismic tool, you start thinking about all those other things that you could be doing with it on site. I know that's usually pretty fascinating to see.
Yeah.
We actually spoke to a friend who works for one of these companies who produces underground, drones for underground mines, and he said exactly that their first contracts, they were talking to one of the very big mining firms, and actually getting them to use the solution the first time took like, something like 2 years of negotiation. But once they started using it, and they saw that how good it was and how efficient and how it reduced risks, now it's just part of all their mining operations, right? So I think it goes to what Jonathan was just saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Rami, you want to add something? I can feel like you want to add something to that. All good.
I don't have anything else to add about that, but it's just it's pretty typical of most large established industries that introducing new technologies, you're always going to have the naysayers, and once you actually get your hands on it, once you experience the benefits of it firsthand, people are pretty quick to jump on. So I think that we're seeing this transition now with drones more and more as well.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, so as we mentioned, we have a giveaway / contest to do during the podcast. So if you have a Canadian address, make sure that you're following us at Progeox Software. So I'll write it down in the chat here for people in Zoom. And if you're watching us on Facebook, you have the Instagram account in the top right corner. So make sure that it's like this. Progeox Software. All right, and let's have a look at the geology kit that we, as mentioned, on our social media. The question will be posted right now on @Progeox Software, and make sure to follow us and answer the question to win a geology kit. You got some cool stuff in here, some gloves and goggles, and this. There's something inside here that I don't know exactly what it is, and a cool geology bag as well. All right. So the question will be posted right now, and we'll have a look at the end of the podcast to see how that went. All right, so let's keep this aside. All right, sounds good. So the question will be posted, so make sure to go there. All right. All right, so to continue, I have a question for you, Rami. So what is the future of drones? So how does it look like? Do you see this as a game changer, and can drones become better and more powerful than they are now? Like, is that something that you see that will definitely happen?
If drones are a game changer, I think we've already seen it. They definitely are. We're seeing them applied in pretty much every industry right now, for a variety of different reasons, and mining is one of them, and that's why we're all here today. Can drones become better, more powerful? Yeah, of course. We're one of the companies that's working on that right now. We're working a lot on power electronics. We're working a lot on mechanical design. But there are companies out there that are working on software, on tools to post-process data and extract information out of the data that you're gathering while you're flying. We also have companies that are working a lot on artificial intelligence and autopilots that allow the drone to fly itself, to conduct missions fully autonomously, not in a way that's just pre-programmed, but in an intelligent way where it can detect places that need a closer looks, or places that need scans for further inspection by humans later on. So we're seeing them get more powerful in every aspect. We're going to see them really being able to transform most industries in the near future, those that they haven't done already.
For sure, yeah, it's definitely those are definitely some good points.
Mohammed,
and John,
if I could...
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to add that there's a regulatory aspect to this as well, right? You mentioned in the intro that I've worked in regulatory matters. I think a lot of the transformation in many industries, including mining, has been limited because of regulation, especially regulation for flying beyond visual line of sight. So what Rami was saying about pre-programmed flights and all that, a lot of it is limited because you need to have a pilot on site. But Transport Canada, at least here in Canada, has been issuing special operation certificates for people to try it beyond visual line of sight in different industries. And I think that will truly be revolutionary, right? Whether it's for pipeline inspections, power line inspections, or for mining as well.
Yeah, and you can imagine also the power of, saving on, like, you want to go inspect a pipeline, you're gonna have to drive, use equipment, fuel. So imagine not only the fact that you're being safe, but also like the amount of ecological footprint that you're leaving behind, which is a great deal, right? So it definitely, like Rami said, like it applies to everything almost instantly. Like everything is almost interconnected, and it's definitely like the way I see as well that is going to be a game changer for a lot of people here. So Jonathan, what do you think here? Is it going to be a game changer or?
Well, I think like the other guys on the podcast mentioned, this has already have become to some extent a game changer as far as what we can do with it. I think following up on what we were saying earlier, as we delve into this technology more and more, we're going to see a lot more opportunities developing. One aspect that I've been following up closely with respect to research and development opportunities is everything that relates to visual capturing of data and processing associated with this. I've done a lot of work with LiDARs, and I've seen more and more drones using this. With what we see of automated cars and automated processes relating to LiDAR and laser detection systems, we can only imagine the opportunities and what it opens as far as when you're thinking drone technology and the places you can go without actually being there. When you think about the mining industry and what that presents to you, that basically allows you to combine several processes together. If you think of the drone as being a tool that allows you to go quickly and efficiently to a remote location or maybe a dangerous place, now you add to this the automated recognition feature of some LiDAR tools to either capture the rock mass characterization or detect some joints, or just basically take a picture of a face and from that picture right there, get a transmission of what's the rock mass rating of that given surface. Now we're starting to talk about different collaboration and interaction between different technologies, but the drone becomes central to this because you go on further, you go on in remote location. It really becomes a game changer just because of the accessibility of the process and what you can actually accomplish with what we already have.
Yep, that's very true, Jonathan. And as you were mentioning before about the first step, based on your experience, like inside the mine industry, did you ever see like a little bit of resistance from the senior engineers to implement this technology?
So what I find, and I'm not going to lie, I myself included have been in that realm before, is that whenever you try something new, unless there's very few processes in a mine that the mine already operates. Therefore, unless something catastrophic happens, very seldom is there a significant driving factor to try something new unless you see drastic improvement or cost savings. And so something that may appear at first more marginal may be a bit more challenging to implement. And so it usually, I would say maybe as it's in the nature of the human being, as you grow older and you're more accustomed to the way you're doing things, maybe you have less interest. And I guess as the new guys in town, the new generation, we come in, we have almost this obligation to try as many things as we can and try to make it work. And so, yes, to some extent, it doesn't mean people are completely blocked to it. It just means that you need to take the time to explain really what are going to be the gains and the opportunities. Because the first time you try it, it may just be a nice visual. But now when you start thinking about down the line, I might use it again, I might be able to compare from one time to the next. You start building this trend and these opportunities and these gains, and now you really see the value. You just need to get that foot in the door. And like I said, it's not that it's impossible. You just need to clearly explain what the value is and be open to new ideas.
Yep, that's very true. Yeah, I see the same thing in drones, like in other stuff, also like in construction, adding GPS to like the tractors and all that stuff. There was a lot of resistance from the workers, saying that we always did this like this, so we're not going to change it. So keep doing it as before.
It's a very good point. We actually, at the facility that I work at, we just commissioned a brand new production head frame, which was a very massive undertaking, done very well, under budget and time, safely. The At first, one of our colleagues had his own little drone for himself and just wanted to take a pic and look at what it would look like. We ended up doing that drone exercise almost every week because we benefited so much from seeing things that maybe you couldn't see from the ground up. And that's where really you just start using it and you start realizing the benefits from it. And so, yeah, you really start seeing more and more being bought in after the first time.
Definitely, yeah. Quick question for you. How you mentioned that, like people are always looking for ways to improve, but how long does it take? Like for example, in your case, how long are you willing to wait until you see that this technology is actually bringing me value? Whereas a lot of people would be like, no, if it's not instantaneous results, then no. So what do you think about that?
I think it depends on the company and the role you're in. I think if you buy into technology beforehand, you're already convinced, so you'll be more tempted to give it a long shot. I would say that operational resources, managers that are running the plants, don't usually have as much tolerance because they usually don't have as much time. And like I said, the plant already runs. So unless the plant has stopped running and you need something immediately, their patience or their interest to develop in something new can be somehow limited. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just these people have time-consuming jobs. They already have processes in place, and so it can be a bit more challenging. So it really depends on the role. I would say at a more corporate level, if you have an R&D group, they are fairly patient, and you can look at, I've done a lot of work with LiDAR technology and blasting applications. It probably took us 3 years before we got something useful, but when we did, it was very useful. Whereas on sites, if I had only dealt with one mine, I think if I can't produce something within a 3 to 6 months period, it might be a bit harder to sell. It doesn't mean the time frame is fixed, but depending on the level and the type of people you're dealing with in terms of the hierarchy of the operation or the company, you have different time frames. People in corporate have more time, more interest toward long-term perspective. Operations just are looking more at day-to-day operations.
I think from approaching it from like when we approach clients, it's sort of our experience too, what Jonathan was saying. When you have companies that have R&D departments and all that, then it's their role to try to integrate innovative solutions into their work, right? If they don't, when they're smaller companies, I think it really comes down often to the individual. There's companies there's just people you speak to that us pitching our solution, they'll be more open to try it and see what comes out of it. Others that are just like Jonathan said, they're already operating a mine, they have limited time, so they say, no, sorry, like come back when you can demonstrate that it's going to have immediate effects.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a very good point. If there's two things that I can add to that aspect is that if an operation, a site specific reaches out, they, like I said, they probably have a shorter time span of interest or patience towards trying things. You better have a product ready. In other words, if you have that product readily available, you have solutions already derived, you're going to be able to capture much more than maybe an outfit that is great technology and great development, but is looking at developing something with a partner. Sometimes if an operation is reaching out because they have a problem, they're probably looking at fixing yesterday. So you better be ready to deliver when they call. And if you have the solution readily available, you can probably capitalize on that fairly quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's but why do you think that's the case though? Is it because they think that if it's a big company that wants to implement this technology, then is it because like they're gonna have a hard time changing people's minds, like the employees, that this is what we're gonna use now, so it's gonna take a lot of time to change the organizational culture to adapt to this thing? Or is it just because they don't trust new technologies and they prefer the same way?
I don't know what you guys' experience is with. I very seldom have I seen employees or managers that are against changes or that don't have distrust in new technology. It might have been the case. I don't see it very often. What I've seen though is this disinterest towards what you usually call the valley of sadness. Before, when you implement something, you have to go through this trial period, error, and suffering before you actually benefit from this. And if the perception is going to take too much time or too much effort or too much money to make it work and be beneficial, then that operation, which already runs, may just see it's not worth the effort to making it work. That's where I really see, I would say, that the challenge of implementing it, because everybody is in agreement that technology, I mean, you look at cell phones and tablets and things like that, nobody disagrees that technology improves as it can be implemented. It's really more of how much effort and work are you willing to put into it to make it work at your facility.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
And that's really why,
Yeah.
like I say, if you have a product readily available, not just a drone, but really you have that platform, you know what platform you're going to use to showcase it, you know how you're going to share the information, you have those little odds and ends information that you're pretty much ready to unpack tomorrow and get going. That's where the operations that may have that shorter time span of interest or patience, they're really going to be interested because of that, because it's something that you can implement quickly and see through quickly.
But that also depends on the technology, right? If it's something that's new and hasn't been tested before, then you might experience a bug and then be patient and then be even more patient, right? So
No doubt.
I guess
And that's
that
where
applies. Yeah.
That's definitely where R&D group from a given company and bigger mining companies always have R&D groups like that. Usually they do, and that's where these groups come in because they have the time. Their goal and at work is to investigate those opportunities, and so that's the partners you're looking for.
I see. Yeah, totally makes sense. Rami and Andres, you want to add anything to this or? Yeah.
No, I think what Jonathan said is right. They have the know-how, the R&D is their job, and they also, bigger companies tend to have the resources so they can take bigger risks sometimes.
I see.
Yeah, I think they covered it all pretty well.
Yeah. We got it all figured out then. So
Figured
drones,
out, yeah.
So drones are the future. That's it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
But it's like Jonathan was mentioning, that there is a need, if you will, that when people are looking to adopt drones in different industries, that they want to see results very, very quickly, and they want you to kind of unpack that technology and be like, there you go, we've made it. The issue is that to be able to get there, you actually need to find that first one or two partners that are willing to take the time with you to really show you what their industry problem is, so that we can build solid solutions for them. So that's a challenge of developing this technology, is we need to find partners in specific industries that are willing to take the time, that are willing to spend the money to explain problems to us in order for us to come up with compelling solutions based on our drone platforms. And then that helps accelerate the uptake of the technology amongst maybe laggards in the industry.
It's a good point that Rami makes, because actually, like, we develop drones, right? We're not mining experts. So initially, when we approach people, we kind of needed collaboration of people telling us, like, what are the applications, what are the use cases for the drones. We had done market validation, we had spoken to a lot of people, and we knew that there were different applications, but specific to each mine and to different operations, we needed collaboration for that.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: is there anything that drones can, well, besides flying, of course, is there anything that drones are capable of doing that we can't do with manual equipment?
I think it's the flying part is the feature of a drone. What it can do for us that other equipment can't do as easily is to get into difficult to reach places or dangerous places where you don't necessarily want to be sending in humans all the time. So one of those examples that we've seen, for example, is inspection of high voltage power lines. Where typically now it's done by people climbing the towers or by helicopter, and you're putting humans in danger, and it's also just the cost of doing of these inspections is extremely high, and now it's being done by drones more and more. So that this is the main benefit that drones bring you. It's to get to places that's difficult for us or dangerous for us to go, as you know, humans that can get injured.
Absolutely. Yeah, Rami, I have one question. When you mentioned the payload, I thought it was really interesting because you mentioned that now they can carry even kilos. Have you seen anything regarding to geochemistry, taking geophysics or geochemistry with I understand that they have these scanners that they mount onto helicopters, but I don't know if that's it's reachable.
Yeah, so actually what we've seen is, you know, there are very, like those 100 megapixel, 200 megapixel cameras I was telling you about, those were typically mounted on small Cessnas before to do scans.
Oh, okay.
So now we can mount those on drones that are you know, more powerful, more efficient. We've also seen, I think it's magnetic sensors that were typically attached to helicopters on booms because they need to be put as far away from the you know, interference that's coming from the actual machine. We've seen those on drones as well that are hung, you know, way below. And this is where, you know, more powerful software is important, because when you're hanging this, you know, 20 feet or 20 meters below the drone, you don't want it swinging around, and you need to know exactly where it is. And this is where you have, you know, autopilots that are capable of using machine vision to track the payload itself and to balance the drone so that your payload is not swinging from side to side, for example. Something that with the manual flight would be very difficult to do. So we're seeing more interesting payloads that are coming into the industry, and more industry-specific payloads. So I think some of the first ones were really in agriculture with multispectral cameras, and there was a very quick adoption there. We're seeing more now in mining. We're seeing drones for security as well. So with infrared cameras that are capable of tracking and detecting humans, for example. So we're seeing more and more industry-specific sensors that are coming in.
Oh, it's really interesting. Makes the future sound more bright.
Remy, I have a question regarding that application. Have you been exposed to drones mounted with a gas monitor? The one big aspect, especially maybe more in the coal mining industries and some of those aspects, or just after a blast, I find it one big opportunity that I would see just that the operations have worked at is the delay associated with blast dissipations or just necessarily bad problematic gases. And to me, having an equipment like this, a drone mounted with a gas detector that can almost instantaneously relay that information and tell you what you've got in a given location would be another one of those game changers. You know, especially in those coal mines and then gassy mines where you cannot re-enter the mine until your sensors are probably capturing the information you need. That would be, in my opinion, like I said, a game changer. And I'm not sure if you've seen that in the industry.
I actually haven't seen it. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody was developing it right now. We've seen, I don't have a specific example right now, but I have seen sensors like that are used for pollution detection in cities. You know, we have these sensors that the cities put out, the government puts out to measure the quality of the air, especially in downtown areas. So we've seen those being mounted on drones where they can collect data all across a very large region.
Fascinating. No, that would be so. In line with that question, the next piece would be how complicated would it be to have a drone fully sealed, encapsulated to make sure it cannot initiate a combustible environment like a methane type environment, something like that. I don't know how much work has been done on sealing those things. I'm assuming weather control, the ones that can go in very cold and very hot weather are probably sealed better, but that would definitely be a consideration towards implementing that technology. Again, if it's not a thing out there, and I'm assuming it probably is a little, it definitely is large opportunity for lots of mining operations.
Yeah, so I mean, we are sealing our drones to an extent. So we aim for IP45 ratings. So it's mid-level for dust, mid-level for water. We've seen drones that can go completely underwater, submersibles that can go underwater and then fly in the air after. So those are going to be sealed more or less 100%. As far as I know, our drones are not emitting sparks or anything that would ignite combustibles. Mostly because we don't use brushed motors. We use brushless motors. So there is no typically on an electrical system. That's where most sparks would come from. So brushless motors don't have sparks. They have no physical contact between the rotor and stator. So that's a benefit. I wouldn't fly my drone through a cloud of gas yet because we haven't tested it and we don't know what the risks are. But it's an electrical system. It's not a thermodynamic system, so it should be significantly safer than sending in helicopters or airplanes or something like that.
I mean, yeah, sending a helicopter underground wouldn't be
underground,
a good choice,
definitely not. But in areas where there might be a gas leak or something like that.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, that sounds good. Those are some really good points. So we do have some questions. By the way, for people watching us on Facebook, if you have any questions, feel free to use the comments section. Here on Zoom, we do have one question. Okay, so the question goes, drones are gonna substitute airplane on geophysics airborne in mine exploration by 2030. So I guess the question is, are drones capable of substituting airplanes on geophysics airborne in mine exploration by 2030? So Rami, do you have any thoughts about that?
So, I mean, I think it's a matter of sensors, right? And we're not specialists in sensors, so I wouldn't be able to really fully answer that question. In terms of capability of carrying payloads, the distance required, there's no doubt about that. But will the sensors be miniaturized enough to fit on small unmanned vehicles like multi-rotor drones? I'm not certain.
I would think from my limited knowledge of the exploration process, it would probably increment itself in a different scale of exploration. I still think a plane gives you an opportunity to survey and explore a very large area in a small amount of time. That's given the speed you're considering, a drone is not trying, nor should it try to go that fast. But at the same time, once a plane identifies something at a course level very quickly, you need to go more detailed and more detailed. So from the plane to the helicopter to the human on a truck to the human on the field, you've got different steps. And I think the drone will fit very well between maybe the helicopter and the person on the truck, because you still have a very large area to cover, but not nearly as much as maybe an entire region with just trying with the plane. So I think they're going to complement each other very well as opposed to replace one another, because the plane will still give you the area to cover, but the drone will allow you to cover a smaller footprint, but much better than what you would currently be doing with either a vehicle or a human walking around.
Yep, yeah. That's very true. That's exactly what I was thinking. It could fill in the gap between like the small drone and like the airplane, and provide a better service for people who might need something in between.
Yeah, I think it's a good point as well, because we've seen a lot of resistance in some industries where people are scared that drones are going to replace them, and that's not that's not what we're building. We're not building technologies that can replace humans, but either add tools that they can use, or to close these gaps between the tools that we have today. And in this case, will be between the human on a vehicle, a ground-based vehicle, and a helicopter. We have something that we can fly in a lot closer to structures without endangering humans, or without putting helicopters in dangerous situations. It's a good example of how we can close that gap.
Yeah. Andres, do you want to add to that question, or?
No, not really. I mean, it's something I've wondered. I haven't heard much about the use of drones in exploration, and actually some of what Jonathan said kind of gives me an answer. And I guess it's also about what Rami was saying, the sensors, the data that you need to gather when surveying for exploration. But yeah, I could imagine that it can play a role. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So we gave you guys a possible another realm to explore for drones, huh?
Definitely, yeah.
Great. Yeah. So I think no more questions on Zoom, and looks like we're Facebook, email. Where can I start? Yeah, I think no questions on Facebook either. So that's pretty much it. And here we're just gonna check quickly. Okay, we're still waiting for an answer. So whoever answers the Progeox software Instagram question will win the geology kit. So make sure to answer that. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Thanks everyone very much for your attendance. And Martin, I don't know if you have anything else to say or.
Oh, well, just to conclude the second episode for the mining experience, thank our panelists for accepting the invitation and sharing their knowledge on drones and surveying, and to thank our audience for attending this episode. And we hope to see you guys in the next one.
Excellent. Yeah. So make sure to follow us on our social media. And yeah, like Martin said, thanks again, everyone, for your attendance. And we hope to see you all very soon again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank
Sounds
you
good
guys.
then. All right. Take care then. Bye-bye.